public. We have somebody new at the table that I don't know, so.
Yeah, Paul Lorenz is a 1996 grad of Pennridge. He's also a business owner, and he's also president of Pennridge Percy Rotary Club. So we think he fulfills three important roles for what we might be looking for. So Paul was very active in the summit and in the activities that went along with that, so he's a good addition to the committee.
Great. Welcome, I'm Christine Yardley.
We know each other
Oh,
because
you
we
know,
were
okay.
in the summit together. We were
Okay,
same group.
and then, do you know Dave Thompson?
No, I think Dave Thompson, nice to meet you all.
Yeah, so we're the three of us are the board members that are on the committee tonight, so.
Jeff and Dave.
Yep.
Okay, all right, well, welcome, thank you. All right, so we'll start with comments from the public. Would anybody like to make a comment?
Would you mind if I sat tonight to speak? Is that appropriate?
That's fine.
Thank you.
Use the microphone.
Thank you, thank you. I've just been traveling a great deal, kind of been on my feet a lot. Good evening, everyone. Lee Rush from Percy. So, I guess I got 3 minutes. I'll try to make it short. And please take these comments for all their worth, which are $1 late and $1 short. So the train has left the station. So the reason I wanted to speak just for a couple minutes, even though it's too late, is that I always hoped that the development of the foundation in our community was going to be, hopefully, and I know that Joe shares this as director and board members, really potent as a fundraising arm in our district for many things, beyond all the great things they've done in the past. And when I went to the meeting a couple months ago, when there was so many people in the auditorium, a lot of people jazzed up, you know, they would have probably shelled out a bunch of money that night to save Pop Yoder, which didn't happen. And I thought that this, you know, obviously would come up. I'm so happy it did come up, do some fundraising for the new field. But I always hope that, you know, when we start to look for funds, and this is not really about football or the stadium, it's really about the next 25 years, if I could just put a quarter century on this. Because there's going to be significant stresses, heavy duty, on funding basic education and programs. And in some communities, as Joe well knows, that there's some foundations that are raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds, for all kinds of programs, prevention programs for parents, football. I think one of the private examples closest to us is Palisades. It started as a Jolly Rogers Club. They pretty much paid for that stadium up there. Heavy, like millions. I don't know, I think they made their last check the other week. And that was parents, started as a Jolly Rogers Club, blah, blah, blah. So, as again, this is kind of late, but it is structured the way it is, and I can support it. I disagree with it, and I can support it. So I'm not going to, you know, speak more about it in a negative way, but I just wish it would have been structured not within this room, but it would have been community-based as a committee with businesses and parents and students and all kinds of community people, that it would have been not in such a setting where there's people sitting here observing or speaking for a couple minutes before or after, and that the committee would have the ability to have a lot of discourse in a different way than these meetings are. So part of my comment too is just in the structure of how we do business as a school and as a community, that we start to look at different models of participation. Because I think on some level, this model stymies some people's input. I could be wrong, it's just a guess. And I just thought this could be a prime example, because people can get real jazzed about football. You know, next to NASCAR, it's the most watched sport in our country. And that stadium is just going to knock people's socks off in a year. I sat up in the top row the other day, looked out over the valley, and it's just stunning, right? It's a stunning view. It's beautiful. We're very lucky to live here and have that vantage point. So in a year, you know, other people who are against it will move on, and I think that we will raise money. I'm going to give money, and I will invite and ask my friends to give money because I'm a supporter of education, but I just would have hoped that it would have been structured a little different. So for what it's worth, that's my comment, and I'm here to support your work. Thank you very much.
I just have a question for you, and, so you disagree with the setup of this committee? Because you started off talking about the foundation and saying things, so you're just saying the structure of this committee?
That it's a school board-based committee. It's an ad hoc committee of the school board, not of the community foundation. So this committee is a ad hoc committee of our school district's board,
Right.
legally. And that the money, I understand, I don't know, I'll wait until I hear how the money will be dispersed, but my guess is that you will use the foundation as a place that people could send checks to, because it's a tax-exempt 501c3, which was the purpose of setting it up like that, to help get better gifts. And that's all fine and good, but I often like to see foundations not just be used as pass-throughs, as a convenient arm of a school district, but that they really become more alive with community members, and that the meetings are not in the same formal structure, that's all.
Right, well, I think part of the, I guess the issue is sort of, just getting started. And so, I mean, we hope that we're gonna bring a lot more people in and getting involved, and that's what, we've talked about, getting other groups involved, and so sort of just, getting started.
Yeah, I think we're heading in the same direction, it's just a different vehicle, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, how can we get the foundation more active? Because I don't think there's anybody here that would disagree that we want this foundation to be successful. What do we have to do?
Well, I think I don't want to belabor this because we have a structure, but I think it's too late in a way, because the foundation board, I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn. Joe's your director. I think that's a good question for Joe, but I've been on so many boards in my life. I've run nonprofits. I know it's hard to get board members excited. Sometimes they get tired. They're volunteers. But sometimes what really jazzes people is a project. And just having them invited to a meeting or getting them board is different than a foundation owning the project. That it's kind of some, when the people went up there to Palisades and gave a check for, I don't know how much money it was, but they were quite proud that they delivered on a commitment that took well over 7 or 8 years. They made a pledge, they got tired toward the end of it, but when they handed that check over, I could be wrong, I don't want to be quoted, I'm not accurate, so whatever my number, but I know it's over, I think it's over $1 million that foundation raised. It's a huge number of dollars privately from a district that has very few business and a lot of other stresses. So that's what it would have been, like the foundation, like somebody goes from the school board to say, hey, listen, we need your help and this is your project and we're going to be a member of your committee, versus the school board making an ad hoc committee and then inviting board members here, which we have, I guess, one, right, Christine?
Yeah,
Your
I'm
board,
I'm the liaison,
Liaison,
I'm on that
Joe's
board
the
also,
executive.
yeah.
So it's not huge, it's more, and sometimes it's more just a thought for the future too, but I just know that part of what we're going to be facing in the next many, many years is heavy duty stress financially. Everybody knows that. So preparing for the future with a project that people get excited about will be easier to raise some money, hopefully, for a stadium versus keeping a counselor in one of the buildings, or buying new textbooks, or new computers, or a bus. I mean, so I don't want to take the time of the committee seriously.
Okay.
I'll be glad to talk offline another night.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Does anybody else want to comment or share any thoughts? Okay. All right, so we're going to review the revised sponsorship pricing. So last meeting, we had some prices, and we decided they were a little bit high.
Is there copies?
Joe helped us.
Is there copies for us, Christine?
I hand them out to
Is there copies for us to look
I
at?
think there's everything.
I made them for the board, I make them for the board for that, so you guys should know, because you haven't set up a price yet, so.
These are pre-decisions. Yes. You have to take notes.
Okay. All right, so we'll talk about it, and, I just think once we've decided, it'll be advertised.
Sure.
Because it has to be adopted by the board, but, all right, and, we can talk through the numbers, so. So we have the scoreboard, 40,000, the concession stand. So we have the concession stand, the weight room, team room 1, team room 2, and the field house all at 100,000.
Everything here is everything that we talked about last time, I just put it down on the paper.
There were really only two changes, correct?
Yeah, we dropped down, but Joe gave us the information that we were way too high. We talked about the scoreboard and the home side press box being the same at 40.
Right.
We talked about each one of the sections of the concession building, which is going to have concession, weight room, team room 1, team room 2 being $100,000 to sponsor. The main ticket booth was going to be, since it's, you know, the entrance there would be more valuable than each one of the other two ticket booths, which won't get built until there's actually a need for them down the road. So I know the main one is in the plans and probably is the one that will be built. And then the bleacher seats, put them more in line. I think they just dropped them $500 for the category 1, category 2, 3, and then the bleacher seats. So it's pretty much what we talked about last time. I did put a note down at the bottom, if it's a sponsorship of 10,000 and higher, then they can do equal installments over multiple years. That's also something we recommend to the board.
With equal installments and multiple years did we,
Up to 10 years.
Up to 10 years.
and so would each one, would that be negotiable?
If it's over 10,000, yeah, they would, if someone says, I'm gonna do the weight room, and obviously we're gonna have to have a contract because their sponsorship is dependent upon them fulfilling their yearly thing. Say, I'm gonna do it over 5 years, that's fine too. If they want to do it over 10, that's fine too. It doesn't cost any more or less to do that.
But they would have that right for 10 years.
Correct.
Do we think 10 years is too long? I mean, 10 years is a nice even number and makes the amount easily divisible, but is it
Do you
too
have any
long?
idea what others have done, Joe?
They're all over
It is.
all over the board. What's, yeah, they're all over. Some are 3, some are 5, some are 10.
And the name stays even after the 10 years. That's what they do with libraries, that's what they do with college buildings. So it's not like the name's gone after 10 years.
Yeah, once that contract is filled, it stays.
Once they have to fulfill the contract. If they do 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever the board says, and we may decide that 9 years is enough. I was just trying to look at the big ticket items of $100,000 and 10 a year.
But isn't there some sort of, I mean, even when you name, like when people name a stadium or they name something and a commercial, I mean, then somebody can buy them out, right? Like in Philadelphia, the names change all the time because
There, yeah, I mean, there's situations, you know, at universities that it might be named one building and then someone comes in. So I don't know if the contract beyond how many years they're in the contract to complete their contribution, if it sets so many years beyond that, or do you put a stipulation in, you know, how is it written? That then after that contribution's met, how many years?
As long as the building's standing, you can put an expiration years, but if you're not gonna let them for $100,000 have their name inside
Yeah,
that
I
for
mean,
at
that's
least
a decision to be made.
multiple sets of 10, they're not gonna do it.
I think each one can have its own lifespan.
Yeah, the bigger.
So for example, a room is going to stay the same.
Yeah.
A ticket booth for $2,000, you're not going to have that
You can limit
forever.
the years on that.
You could limit.
Yeah, but if someone's committing $100,000, then.
We would give them that for life.
If someone gives you $40,000 for a scoreboard, and you say we're gonna change it, maybe you want your scoreboard back.
Yeah, but the scoreboard does have a life, the scoreboard does have a lifespan.
Yeah.
So that will have
So
to
the
be
span
replaced.
of
Sorry.
The span of lifetime guarantee, and it's up to whatever years, so we will have, there's details.
You know, same as how you have here, this last item is weight room equipment. Now it says price per item, again. You know, that's an item that's gonna have a lifespan.
That's correct. And with the district, once somebody buys it, then we replace it. You know, so it goes on our replacement cycle. It's theirs, you know, with their name on it until it gets replaced. It's not theirs once, unless they want to replace it. You should give them an option.
the ticket booth is just gonna be on the building
Oh, yeah.
somewhere, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
gonna be
It's
like
not
the
gonna be,
entrance,
it's
yeah.
there, you know.
Yeah, that's the
entrance,
really expensive one.
Sponsored by.
Yeah,
No, it should, there'll be
Be a sign.
something on the
Big
side.
plaque
of the
right up
company.
front.
Entrance sponsored by, who's, on the size of it, but it's good. To get it started, then we need to, look at what prices you want the board to adopt, so we can start paying away. If there are, we're gonna have life of how long for these, so that's, it should be probably by dollar.
Do we want to include the decorative entrance? I don't see that listed on here.
That's called the main ticket booth.
Oh, you're including that whole entrance.
no, but not the decorative entrance, not where the name is above.
Yeah, they had,
Because
like, one of them had a gram,
Correct.
logo.
Right, that's,
That's
It's gonna be down low.
no, but it's not gonna be up there.
The entrance would be here, the thing there, and then on the side over here, sponsored by, we'll have the name of who's sponsoring it. It's not gonna change the name of what that is.
No, of course not, but I mean, is that considered the ticket booth?
That's the main
Main
entrance.
entrance.
The main entrance.
But the ticket booth is in the middle?
So the ticket booth is here, so it would be something
Just like
right
a
here.
little.
Well, is there am I
Yeah,
missing
see,
something?
that makes
Right.
it seem like it's the,
It'll be on
they
this side.
sponsored a lot more than just that one little building.
But we
Is
were
there a
broken
main-
down.
Am I missing something?
No,
Is there a main
no, I
entrance on here?
think it's just
Yeah.
the main
No.
ticket booth.
It's just the main ticket booth, it's not.
That's the one with the facade, that's why it's priced higher.
Yeah, I guess that would be really confusing. I wouldn't imagine that you're including that whole, if you're calling it a ticket booth, I would expect something that big. I think you ought to be a little clearer. If you include the entrance, that whole facade that's going to be the main entrance.
It's not gonna be, because if we said, and then we're gonna say, if somebody wants to, sponsor the whole thing,
That's fine too.
then that price would be negotiable. It's gonna be.
But I mean, I don't see it listed on that.
100,000.
That's what I'm.
Oh, yeah, do we want to list
Main
it?
To be
entrance.
clear, we're going out to bid for everything we talked about, and it's going to be broken down in details. So you could go as, coming back and say, we only want a ticket booth, only just a ticket booth without the ornamental. So I think maybe the confusion is what are we sponsoring? The full ornamental ticket booth or just the ticket booth? What do
I
you
think if
sponsor?
somebody likes that and wants to donate it, are we going to say no? I mean,
But their
why
name
would
isn't
we-
gonna be up
No,
there. is what I'm
no,
saying,
but
yeah.
that it would be the main entrance to the ticket booth, main entrance, and then you could have a plaque on it that says donated by whoever. But I think you don't have you have it listed here, that if somebody wants to donate, how much money was the main entrance, the decorative entrance that they had. They had two different alternatives.
Right.
Do we have, is that priced out? Do we know?
This is what we're looking at, it's this ticket booth right here that they would have their name on. The main entrance is on top of that, but this is the main,
And there's a gate on each side
Yes.
of the ticket
I
booth.
it's just this piece here.
I understand
And
that.
that one will be built, we have to see whether the other ones are gonna be built, now or down the road.
But you're not going to, the rest of the entrance, you're not going to put an opportunity for somebody
No,
to.
no, that is just, this thing, that's really gonna be your name for how you, whatever you want to say. But this one says how we track and build, I'm not sure what it's gonna be.
I don't think that has anything to do with what I'm proposing. I mean, I could imagine a plaque on one of the columns that says donated by somebody,
In
and we
addition-
make it whatever we want. In addition to the ticket booth, that to me, the ticket booth to me means a ticket booth. I wouldn't
So
have
you're
imagined.
saying, Dave, the ticket booth here in the center and each column?
No, I'm saying if we mean the whole entrance, then you want main entrance including main ticket booth or something. I didn't realize that included that whole entrance. I thought a ticket booth to me means ticket booth.
You could call this an archway or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the main entrance, we went with a bigger number because this is gonna be more costly.
okay, I didn't understand that. And I
The other
think,
ones are 2,000, this since it was a bigger.
okay, I think we should be a little more clear what this includes. Ticket booth and memorial entrance, decorative entranceway or something like that. To me, that just
Ornamental
doesn't,
entranceway.
ornamental
That's
entranceway.
why we have it listed.
I
Okay.
mean, why is that one different than the others? I think people wouldn't really understand that
So you
unless
thought-
somebody explains it to them.
how's it listed?
Well, I also think it's gonna be the
Main
main,
entrance.
that's gonna be
Where
the
most
main
people
entrance.
walk through.
I agree.
Yeah.
Ornamental main entrance.
Because we could end up with a ticket booth without an ornamental part.
Yeah.
I think you just keep it to the ticket booth, but I feel like it would guarantee.
Just a ticket booth period
Yeah.
For the sponsorship.
with
Yeah.
sponsorship.
Why? if somebody wants to donate it, why would you say you're not gonna take the money?
I don't know what they would be donating.
Amount of money to build that?
But we said we're separating the sponsorship from the actual cost of building the
Understood.
rooms and things, that we made it just what we thought we might get.
Okay. To me, that's just.
That was how we ended up with the inflated numbers the first time,
Yeah,
isn't it?
because we actually, the
We
inflated
were
numbers
looking
were
at-
still lower than the bid numbers, and Joe said no one's doing that. North, one of the questions I was asked to check into was Council Rock had their turf, no, it wasn't like, it was turf the rock, and they raised 300,000, not 2 million, 300,000, I got the email from Bob. North Penn brings in $30,000 to $40,000 a year, about 3 to 4 million, that's all they bring in. They're much bigger than us, and they have much more commercial interest around them, so we're trying to be somewhat realistic, and Joe Cross now available.
I did talk to the Parkland person who handles their stuff, and they're in the process of trying to put a turf field in. They have a regular grass field now. Their school board has decided that they will fund it, regardless of whether there's any advertising or sponsorship support. Anything that comes in is great. She's in the process of trying to sell their scoreboard for $45,000 and has worked with the same prospect for 2 years.
I had just a little bit different take on this whole thing. To me, if you look at how school boards, schools and districts in general are struggling for their taxpayers to come up with the required funds for all of their required needs. And no matter what, and they're talking in Harrisburg about additional funding sources, whether it's going to turn into an earned income tax or sales tax or some other kind of expanded revenue base to help the schools pay for this. What I imagine here is that we would be asking our people to help our taxpayers, that this is going to be an ongoing effort, and the foundation, I hope, is in the middle of this, because it is going to be an ongoing effort, in my opinion, to try to meet the needs in this incredibly difficult period to raise funding. And to me, it's not just strictly looking at the business, how much is it worth to this business, the advertising, how much can I get from that? That's going to be part of it. But in my mind, we're citizens of this school district, and if people care about that, can we help the people that need help? We had people come up in our school board meetings that said, you guys should vote to raise taxes, and because we can afford it, and a lot of people can. And the people who can, we should be asking them, are you willing to help us meet the needs of our school, that we don't have to take people who are struggling to stay in their homes, that we don't need to put them at further risk. And so, to me, that was what I was hoping this thing would be a little more expanded in, not just how much is it worth to a business to put their name on that ticket booth, but will you help our district? Do you care about this district? You're an alum, you're a community member, our taxpayers are struggling, will you help us? That's the way I hoped it would be done.
The whole goal, when we talked last week, I had all these things, let me know what order you want to go in, because it's not just the sponsorships, we're looking at donations, which is part of that, we're looking at advertising, and the whole campaign, which I just put down in the title, is to raise $2 million over 10 years. It's not going to be done in 1 year, so the goal is, like you're saying, over a long period of time, to try to get the money in here.
And your sponsorship, your donations, those, many of those are one-time, because of how we're basing this with sponsorships, that there's one concession stand, one weight room, one entrance. But part of it, what Bruce just said, the third part here is the advertising. And advertising is not necessarily a once and done, so you have opportunities there where it rolls over. So it's.
But isn't that when Joe says that this is when Joe said these is what these other districts are raising, isn't that more looking at advertising as such, how much is it worth to a business to put their name on, as opposed to a community helping to fund our
I think it's
schools?
probably a little bit of both.
It's a
I think
combination.
I think it's both, because a lot of people, it's just like anything associated with the school, a lot of fundraisers and, you know, people put together ad books and stuff. And do they really get business from it? I mean, no, are they doing it to help the students in the community? I think it's both.
You know, we had, at the first meeting, we talked about when we discussed advertising, that, you know, if we can find success with the advertising here, that then it's something that we'll look into further beyond this project.
Sure.
Advertising, you know, whether within the school to fund other things, not just, you know, a field, but education by all means. I mean, it's definitely an avenue that has to be explored.
Computers for needy kids or something like that, you know. Right, okay.
All right, so we have the capital campaign. Okay, so we want the name of the campaigns down further on the agenda. So
Yeah,
we'll-
I just passed that everything out because people are asking questions and they're coming down, so you should get all the stuff there.
Okay, so how many pages are there?
There should be 4 total.
Well, I have 3. Okay. All right. Okay, well, does anybody have any other comments about the sponsorship pricing?
I need the title, make sure, for the main gate, whatever you want to call that, I want to make sure it's correct. If we're taking this to the board, they need
So
to know
that's
what
titled,
it's correct.
and
The
they know.
title has to be correct. We know what we're talking about, but, you know, what do you want?
Well, why don't we call it the stadium entrance versus a ticket booth?
The ornament,
No, not ornamental,
it's
it's
the stadium.
Stadium entrance
Or
or
main
ticket booth.
stadium
main entrance, how about just the main entrance? Yeah,
Right.
because it says east entrance and west entrance, so just call it the main entrance.
Main entrance. Okay. Is that good? I want to make sure I get this right.
Works.
But I don't want people to think, oh, my name's gonna be up above.
No, I mean, that's selling track and field.
Right,
That's the only thing that's going to have there.
Yeah, and in the, obviously, you know, again, there are details to,
And it says
That's right.
includes signage with name of sponsor, it doesn't say their name, it says signage with name of sponsor, I guess we'll have to.
Maybe it should say and plaque with name of sponsor. I mean, either way, somebody has to understand that we're not gonna name that whole
should it
thing.
indicate there that it's going on the ticket booth building?
I pretend.
So that there's no question of whether it's going on
Sure,
the
why
top,
not?
you know, main entrance, and then includes signage,
Obviously,
name
you're
of
gonna
sponsor on the
We're
ticket.
gonna talk to the people.
Yeah, they're not just going to hand you 10 grand and say, we're doing,
Where
where
are
are
you?
you
Yeah.
You won't get the money if you don't, you know.
If we just call it main entrance.
Yeah, main,
Back
we'll
in.
call it main entrance.
Yeah, that's fine, main entrance, all right. All right, any other comments or suggestions? All right, so the next thing is the donation opportunities. So we have 2 different items, well, actually, so just, we have the Path of Pride,
I use the name that was
Yeah,
given
thanks.
last week, but this is,
Ferrera, yeah.
Gerard, so we use that, and actually, if you look at it as a, like it was talked about, we have with a key on both sides, and then just the plaques in the middle, that's Lisa and I just put that on paper for you to look at, so that, because we said that'd be nice to have that, so.
Right, and so we're talking about $100 per paver,
Correct.
and people would get 2 lines per block, and then, you know, they could put down what they wanted. Do we have any information about if the cost of pavers, or if they might be donated?
No, not until we can, I can officially go out and maybe ask.
Okay,
I know people that we're talking to said they don't want any pricing or grading until we come up with what we want to grade or the P or somebody's got to draw up.
but do we have any idea if we're saying it's $100 per paver and we have to pay for everything?
Pavers
ourselves?
themselves are $3, $5.
Okay.
So they're very cheap. So I can't imagine the grading is that much. I don't know, Joe, if you know. or not.
No.
Nobody's giving me a price because they all want to say, well, what are we grading?
It's
You know,
paint stuff, whatever.
if the whole paver's $20, I'd be surprised.
Okay. All right.
I'd be surprised.
And you said Landis Block?
Lance Block said if we talked to them, I haven't, but I have the information, that they may donate all pavers.
Okay, well, and then they could have like a row of pavers in the
Sure.
beginning
Well,
and
absolutely.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
They donated the pavers, yeah, okay.
So at one point, we'll have to contact them for
Right.
that.
Okay.
And we think this will probably be the most popular one, because for $100, well, and, you know, most people can, or families can participate in this, so we're probably gonna find lots of places.
I have to tell you, I was talking to my family before I came tonight, and I was like, well, give me some, I was talking about the name, and I'm like, all right, give me some feedback, and then and I said, we're gonna have these pavers, and I was telling, and my 11-year-old daughter said she's buying one. And I said, it's gonna be $100, she's like, I'm buying one.
I think Jeff talked about finding more places for pavers once the walk is done, because I think it's gonna be very popular.
Yeah, we can
It's gonna
find,
be every 10 years, we're gonna ask the schools as part of it. We talked last week about asking the service clubs to help us out with this. I think this is gonna be very popular, or straight donations.
Is there any areas in the walkway that there are more visibility, like the main entrance? Should we consider maybe having a little more cost for those right in the main entryway? We have two pathways with pavers in the middle. Is that how it's going to be laid out?
The writing is gonna be small. I don't know if you see what they look like, so you really have to go look for your block.
It's a hunt, it's a
Yeah.
fun.
It will be hard.
Okay.
You've been anywhere where they have them.
Let's see.
It's a seek and find.
We did one at Guth where Jacob went there, and I still have to, I know where it's approximately, I still have to hunt for it because the letters aren't all that
yes,
good.
just to touch on what Dave's saying, I had the same idea, maybe instead of putting 3 all the way down, go to 2 for, you know, a bigger paper for $150, or 1 for $250. So the top first 50 could be $250 at a bigger size.
That's what I'm suggesting, in the high visibility.
Yeah, the high visibility, the first 50 coming off the gate, or
Oh, and
25,
so if you would
would be a
just,
bigger paver
Okay.
for more money. Once you get past that first 50, then everybody goes to the smaller pavers.
so there'd be a limited number of.
I think we have a limited number, which might make it exciting for people to go, oh, I want one of them before they sell out.
Right. Yeah,
Just another idea.
so can you get the, and so the pavers would be square, we're not gonna
Maybe
get
12 by
like,
12 then.
like an octagon, like put them
Well-
all together.
No. And that's something else I thought about, who's gonna be installing these pavers.
Right, the cost of installing it.
Luckily, I have a guy on my staff that's pretty good at it, but I'm not sure that we can use him on that time, you know, so maybe he would donate his time, I'm not sure. I don't know if we can use him in school time, that's a,
Right, but that's something we talked about, because weren't there some contractors in the area, like before, when we talked several years ago,
Right.
people said, oh, I would donate
Time.
Time.
yeah.
right, there you go, right.
That's where we get,
Yeah.
through the Rotary, we have an interact club set up with the tech school. We can actually use the cultural department to help with that.
Yeah, and they actually, at our last board meeting, just, I think it was one of the Quakertown elementary schools, showed that the students up there did a large paved area. I think it was with the, I don't know if it was near a playground area, but the tech school students did the paving, or the paver blocks.
And where, because right now there's the sidewalk that goes up to the entrance, so it would be to the left of that, or?
We're putting another sidewalk to the left of it,
Okay.
and there's gonna be a space of 24 to 36 inches in between the grass. So that's where the pavers would be, starting at the top. and all
Oh,
the
it'd be
way down.
between the two
In
sidewalks?
between the 2 sidewalks.
Oh, okay, so people wouldn't necessarily be, that wouldn't be the main path that they're walking on?
No, you're not walking,
No.
you should, you know, you have 2
Because
sidewalks.
then they're not
on either
worn
side.
down.
That's
That's
right.
what happens a lot of times with a lot of them, yeah, they get worn down and
Right.
broken, so.
Yeah, so we're not walking, I mean, you can, but
Okay.
the purpose is to walk on the sidewalks, and you see them in between.
But as far as size then, like you're saying, if this was, you have 3 8x8s here, so it's gonna be a 24x8, they can, I guess, I'm assuming the paper company, they'll make, they can,
Well, they have all kinds of sizes, they have 8 by 8s, they have 12 by 12s,
See,
they
the
have
12 by 12.
8 by
would be
12s.
150 to equal out the same amount, so it probably ought to be more than that. So I just need to have a price, because part of tonight is to get things ready for the board, to have them approve it, so that Joe can put it in a brochure, so we can start getting information out to everybody,
so if you're gonna have 3 block sizes, we have to
We have to find out, yeah, so. Well, do we want 3 block sizes or just 2?
or 2.
Yeah,
Two's gonna be easier, because then it's a 12 inch.
I'll see what I can find out.
If you do 12 by 12, then we need to have a price for that. You probably ought to go up to $200 per paper. You're gonna lose some of that, that's not.
we can call them premium.
Yeah.
So the regular ones are 8 by 8s,
Yeah.
the premiums are 12 by 12s.
12 by 12s. Because they will fit the same space. 6 of them will fit the same space as 9 by 8s. So then you're least uniform in your size.
And really, the cost is not gonna be much different.
No.
The 12 by 12 paper is only $4 or $5.
So,
8 by 8 is $3 or $4.
yeah, so just,
The engraving.
what's the fair pricing, $250? And then if you figure how many do you want to have, top and bottom?
If you're gonna limit the number, I would do
Yeah, especially limiting.
12 by 12, 250, and then put down
it. Do
limited
you think we could,
number. They just need to prove the price, and we just figure how many can fit, because you're gonna have to actually
Right,
figure
have
out
to be
where they're
measured
gonna
and then,
go. But the
yeah.
board's gonna have to prove the
It's only
price.
12 feet.
Yeah.
We could do 25 easy. The first 12 feet would be 25 pavers, 24 pavers.
But I think we
12
can
feet
figure out
off
how
the
many,
gate,
but I
so
just, I wanna make sure the board approves the price on it, but that's, 250 is probably fair for that. Not to recalculate my,
And you,
half the 2 million bucks.
on the other sheet, it says the Path of Pride pavers, that 1,000 at $100 would be $100,000. So is there room for 1,000? Or you're saying we'd have to go beyond, find another space
Oh,
for
yeah,
them?
we're gonna find other spaces. Jeff is looking for that. I just think they're gonna be big, we have to find space for it.
And what was the count that we ballparked it? Were we at the
We
300?
counted, we were 715 feet. So the first path was like 300 and some, and then there was other places because you're gonna be inside the stadium around us, we're gonna have to find other places
Some
to
other
put them.
spots, yeah.
Because I think they're gonna be very.
So we can find a spot.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's room for about 300 of the 8 by 8 pavers.
just going up.
Right, so that's something that we need to figure out, because then you wanna say this is the bet, like, get in and then right by the main entrance, these, although, yeah.
We would advertise first 300, well, the first, however many of the 12 by 12s, and then the next X number of 8 by 8s will go on the path, and then the rest will be in various locations
Yeah.
throughout the stadium. You're right, in the brochure, we would advertise that, so they want to be first.
Right, okay. All right, and so the other donation opportunities, so we just have different levels, green, silver, gold, platinum, so from $500 to $10,000. And my question when I saw it was, if you can get the main entrance for $10,000, why would you just want to donate $10,000?
You may take
Just
that,
get a
it's
plaque.
gone after the first one, though.
So, right,
There's
so
only one of
there's
those.
only one. Okay, but our goal, and so if this is our, so last time we talked about if our goal is $2 million, and then we would divide out, see how many we need to get to that goal. So we need 15 $10,000
Right.
donations.
Put on that, with the path for, the price would change a little bit, it's gonna change some of it, but if you look at sponsorships for bleachers, and remember, this is over 10 years, so we're gonna be looking at classes, ones that will be graduating, going back, in time to the classes that have already graduated when they have opportunities. Joe had mentioned the fact that we're gonna be going through, who does the,
Harris Connect.
Harris, and we're gonna we'll help them out by actually
Happy to
providing,
go on that.
we'll help them out by providing the name of the class president, vice president, so when they put it in there, that information will go out, but also maybe they can go back and start contacting, we would like them to be partners in contacting the classmates when we reach out, so I think that's a good idea as well, so. It's an aggressive goal, it's over 10 years, and I just made the numbers work. As any good campaign manager does. So, yeah, there's more than $2 million worth of opportunities, but I just want to say that if this happens, we'll get there. And over 10 years, I don't think it's going to be a problem if we're aggressive, because some of these, except for the big chunks of buildings, the rest are doable.
Well, one of the things, about a fundraising campaign is that you need a deadline. So I think 10 years is a really long deadline to say people will, we can't be like 8 years from now, say we're still looking for.
But we should
Someone
set
put their name
we should
on
set
it.
yearly
Yes.
goals. Get some of the big chunks of the sponsorship done up front, and then once we have the money will come in. Usually it comes in like, one piece every 10 years, but we ought to set targets every year, and that's something that we would do as whoever's going to be running the campaign. That's what I would recommend.
There's going to be one-time revenue, there's going to be annual revenue. There's going to be one-time revenue,
Correct.
and there's going to be annual revenue.
Correct.
It seems to me that you ought to have pledges even for the longer range stuff, that if we set a deadline, let's say of a year, to get the pledges, let's say for these building opportunities, you know, the scoreboard and that if we had pledges on that, that it might take 10 years to pay for it, but we know as of the end of year one, that,
That's what
you know, that this is, what you're on the hook for it.
That's correct.
Right, so I think the deadline, I thought we talked about 1 year to say, so that when,
With the sponsorships.
The sponsorship.
Because we can keep selling papers.
yeah, and people, as people go there, they'll still want to buy them because they're coming there and they'll say, I want my name to be on there in the bleacher seats. They might say, you know what, I come all the time, you know, now my kid's in high school, now I want my, you know, my name on it, or, but we also, I would think the donations, we would want the donations to be in the first year as well, at least a commitment to them,
Yeah.
a pledge.
As much as we could.
And then just the advertising in the papers would continue.
You would want to have commitments and funds. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to say, hey, you want to get at least half of the first year with commitments and money coming in. So that's a million. Knowing that you know the other, you have more time and you can be more aggressive.
Yeah, and your donations, I mean, yeah, I agree, to have a goal, that 1 year goal, but that doesn't mean you cut off at that point. If somebody wants to donate,
Well, yeah.
obviously. Because in that part of it, like having the levels, like you see like different organizations, hospitals, so forth, they do that annually, that, you know, that where they have their levels, that with their fundraising, you know, so
Yeah.
every year, they have it every year. You know, I know with Granby, like they put out,
Okay, bye-bye.
a booklet and it lists every year their different levels of donors.
But I think with the stadium, there's a lot of excitement around this, and it's gonna be easier to get the pledges in the first year when everything
Yeah,
is.
you have to capitalize on that.
Exactly, maybe 2 years, because, you know, it's, by the time phase 2 is complete, it's gonna be, you know, at least a year, maybe a year and a half. So I think that will help us give some immediacy to the pledge and the commitment.
Okay, so let's go through the advertising. So is that just
That's just
one
a
line?
What we talked, and Jeff and I and Joe talked about it, because remember we had different options that different places looked at. What Jeff had looked at, now Jeff, I'll let you explain how to do this.
On the signage?
Turn your mic on.
On the signage.
Yeah, the advertising.
So if you go up on the home side and you look straight across, the whole flat part, say 10 tens. Those are approximately 46 openings that would fit in perfectly between everyone. That were about 32 inches by 8 feet.
The inside gate, the inside fence.
The inside and lower fence. So if you're sitting in, and that's what you're really going to be looking at. When you get into the radiuses, you're not going to see them as much. We could probably sell it at a lower price. Or if you're on visitor side, the home side, same thing with about 46 slots. So you have somewhere around 100 spots for a roughly 32-inch by 8-foot sign. We want to get out there. That would be about
You said 46 openings or 100? There's
46
both sides.
46 on both sides, roughly 100.
So we looked
Oh,
at
okay.
4 foot by 32 inches, and it only goes down like 34 inches, so
And we talked about putting 2 per slot.
2 per slot in
Right,
there.
4 foot by 30, 4 foot by 32,
Right.
and a 4 foot by 32.
Okay.
2 per section.
Someone can buy 2, if they want to have a bigger sign, you go for 2, they would still stay in between those sections there. Rather than, you can always add, I know there's whatever they call it, they're heavier duty, and then you lay down the end zone, you see in colleges and other stadiums, but I figured we'd start off with one standard one, so, you know, we can certainly grow, and I would be happy to have other ideas as we go. To start off with, I know there are groups that already been given to.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
There are already groups that do these signs, but this was doable. If you add things on down the road, that's great.
I'll say that's, I have a sign at Little League Field.
Yeah.
We're at 300 for the year, for your commitment, so, well, that's
The
it.
same, well, these are different,
300
or
here.
350, which one is it?
I put net.
This is 350, I'm paying,
I
I pay 300 at Little League Field now for a 3-year commitment, and That's a great deal.
Yeah.
But you go Larry, it's pretty good.
350 per year for 3 years. The signs are 150. So what I have on advertising, I put down 10-year revenue at $300 per year. I just put down the revenue.
Oh, okay,
On your campaign thing, I was trying to get net cost.
okay.
So when you actually look at it, we're raising it, it's not all this minus. So if it's 350, 3 years, that covers the cost of the sign going forward. So it's 150, 3-year commitment, so it's basically $900 plus the cost of the sign. So, and it's a bigger field, you have much more exposure because it's band tournaments, it's soccer, it's field hockey, it's everybody that's out there. So there's a lot of opportunities.
So you think it could be higher?
I think it'd be higher.
How big's
Because
your
I know
sign
at the
field?
Green Jackets,
On
they're
the 8
top.
by 4, so 4 feet wide.
Okay,
8 feet.
so he's got a full 4 by 8
Well,
thousand.
you gotta remember, it's out of little field where
Right.
you have a fraction.
You have 50 people there versus
Yeah,
thousands.
because I think Green Jackets.
But going back to
sponsors
commitment,
like-
I'm doing it to sponsor the Little League field, not for, to return on investments.
Yeah.
And it's similar to that.
I just
You don't want to outprice it.
I don't want to overprice it. So that's in the range.
And we have hundreds to sell, so
Yeah,
keep them somewhat inexpensive and sell them all.
And sell more.
yeah.
as opposed to-
And then look at it in 3 years, because it's only for the first 3
Right,
years.
and then if we say,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can revise it. So it'd be $350 per year for,
For 3 years.
It's a 3-year
It's a
commitment.
3-year commitment,
yeah,
because the signs will last at least 3 years, so.
So it's bringing in $900.
$900 per,
Net.
per person,
Times.
over 3 years.
Times 200, right?
Yeah, so $300 a year times, 10 years, we're assuming that we'll have them up there every year for 10 years. So that's where I get the cost of the value of the revenue.
okay, so, $350 per year for a 3-year commitment. And so you said there's 46 openings of 32 inches by 8 foot. We're gonna make the signs be 32 inches by 4 feet. So that means there's 2 sides, so there's 92 times 2, so there's 184 spots.
Correct.
Correct.
And that's just in the main part where
That's correct.
the bleachers
Just
are.
the straights.
The
Right.
straight part, not the curved ends, okay. And so you just have in the goal 140.
I think some of these categories, I think we can do better, because we have to have some places where I would be glad to sell all 180. Because there may be other places where we're gonna fall down.
Okay, and if people want a double sign, then we just charge double, right?
It should, they
Yeah,
may
you want
be
4
two
by
slots.
8.
Yeah.
Or 3 by 8, right?
Like 3 by 8,
Just
yeah.
I think maybe you do a 4 by 8 for 500 and a 4 by 32, half of that for.
Yeah, for 350.
For 350, yeah.
You could do that, right? Yeah.
Do we want to add that in?
As long as you get the same revenue.
No, it's not.
It's not going to be,
No, he's saying then you get,
because
It'll be a
you're
little
taking,
less.
it's going to be less.
I would rather not do that to start off with.
and just be like, you want a double sign, it's
Buy
double.
Buy
Yeah.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah, you think it's reasonable considering compared to others.
Because they may want to put, instead of one big one, if I'm them, I would put one on both sides. Instead of just one big one, because that way I get, even if it's going to be on the visitor side, when they look at it, it's the same people will see that as they walk to their seat on the home side.
right.
So, I mean, a lot of them will think about buying two, no more.
Okay.
And we can adjust these prices, down the road, just trying to get something to start off with, that you can get board approved, and then Joe can work on a brochure.
Okay, so the next thing is just information requested from the last meeting. So I think we talked about some of that, right?
I shared the Turf the Rock, they raised $300,000 in Council Rock.
And how long did it take them? Was that a year or 2 years?
I didn't ask that. They were-
Okay, and that was different from Light the Rock?
I didn't get the lights, Bob Reinhardt just responded to
Okay.
the
I
Turf.
wonder
He-
if Light
he
the
said-
Rock was way before
Yeah,
that.
he
Dave,
said the
you
lights
said
were
that
there
the
for a
lights,
while.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
lights were on.
lights have been there a while.
Then they torqued it, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the Turf the Rock was the last big campaign that Council Rock had.
Okay. And then you talked about North Penn and Parkland, right?
I
Okay.
did North Penn, it was $30,000 to $40,000 a year,
And that's just from advertising?
just from advertising.
Okay. And they advertise just at their stadium or? all their athletic facilities?
Well, they have an advertising campaign.
That's
Okay,
the
right.
one that's
Yeah,
online,
it's
this one
online,
that we had
but they-
seen.
But they, yeah, that's correct.
There's a
one that was
whole
shared.
package,
Yeah,
All
it's
this
not,
stuff. But it's only
all
30
over.
30 to 40,000 a year.
Okay. All right, how about a budget? Do we have any numbers for,
I got some of the preliminary numbers for the signs, purposes, but beyond that.
so we need, on, at the board meeting, we need to approve a budget as well.
Correct.
For this.
Correct. So we'll need to have some number for, you know, the brochures that will be developed, so then we're gonna pass them out at the very first, the home opener football game, get the information out, give to the different service organizations, different to the other charity groups that are gonna help out. You know, the schools will wanna be involved as well, so Joe is gonna get that. We have another meeting, one more before the board meeting, so,
Right, we'll do one more, and
so
then
we
we
can get that. And then I can have, next meeting, I can have at least, you know, what you're going to be proposing for the board to adopt for the 3 pieces we went over. And you can still make changes. At that point, I'll have them all done. And I'll have copies for the public that want to look at it as well, because that will be an item you put on the agenda. Then whatever last changes you make, that's fine, we'll just do it, but then you can see what it will look like.
Okay, right, so we need, if we're gonna do, I guess if we're gonna do a mailing, you know, anything that we print up. There's gonna be any cost for the kickoff event.
Joe, you said using Harris, that's already,
Harris would provide us with the
they
email
provided the
addresses.
service already.
Cost there.
Okay, so that'll be the focus next time. And what is samples?
We were going to, once we're okay with these things, we're going to at least bring pictures or draft boards of what the plaques could look like, or what they put at libraries and hospitals for the names of that, so we can bring that next time. Even if we have to borrow a template that somebody has to show you that, so you're not locked into what exactly
Okay,
it
so
looks
it's
like.
samples of the pavers.
Correct. We'll try to
Well,
do
maybe not
something.
that, but just,
At least what the size of it will look like. We can give
I'll
a
see what I
size,
can do.
a 12 by 12 and an 8 by 8,
Right.
just to bring you in to look at that.
All right.
Because we want to have, and once it gets going, we want to have in some central location, and maybe even up at the stadium, like we have out here where the glass area that shows things and say this is what a paver looks like. And you want to have some things out there so these people can start thinking about it before you know, I guess, at the same time that you're kicking off this campaign.
what happens, like when we sell the papers, if we don't sell all of them in that area, do we just put them down without names? Because you don't really want, if it's a contained
You
area.
can't have an odd number of, you
Right,
know,
so
say
you
the
can't be
12
like
by
half
12s.
papers and then grass, or I don't know, maybe you can.
Well, I know, we could just sand that area, we could mulch that area.
Oh, okay, right.
You
You
know,
just don't want it to
we're gonna
be,
create the path all the way down. You know, so we could kind of section it off and mulch the bottom area as we're doing the pavers, something like that.
I think that first section is going to go fast.
I do too.
Because you're going to have your booster clubs, they're going to want to have some, you know, remembrances for players and coaches and families that were involved. It's the other areas that we'll have to look
I
at.
mean, we could,
But they ought to be at least looking or usable, or somebody could walk.
we could just leave it grass, we could do the first 30 feet or 60 feet, leave the rest grass. And if we sell them, then.
right, it's
the
just to
tech
get to
kids
make
can-
everything
It's
fill
not
in,
much
yeah.
to dig it up, it's, you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna dig it down 6 inches and add sand and grit,
Okay,
put paper and stuff.
okay.
It's only 24, 36 inches wide.
All right, and so the kickoff date of the campaign, we talked about the first football
Right.
game,
Right.
which is September 26th, first home football game.
I put down Rams on a Ridge because that's what everybody liked last week. It doesn't mean that that's what you're locked into. I knew with the name that everybody was, you know.
Yeah, I should know, I kept thinking about it, I don't know if we need to start with a verb.
Well, it depends on how you use the word ram. Rams. He rams his way to $2 million.
Maybe you could just say
That's a
Ram
verb.
Bridge.
Rams will do.
Rams
Rams
on the
page,
ridge,
there you
yeah.
go. Before the Ridge, Rampage for the Ridge.
All right, and then, yeah, are we, like, and then who's organizing the kickoff, like, the event?
What is the
Like,
kickoff event? what is it
Right, what is
going
it?
to entail?
Yeah, and how are we gonna get people to help, because it can't just be us, say, we're, here we are.
I think it's a tailgating thing.
Yeah. Try to get some tents up inside, just to be able to hand out the brochures, maybe have some more samples inside. I'm just brainstorming right now.
Because Jeff, you had said last time when we walked through there that once you go in the gate, that area off to the left is gonna be where temporary concession, I mean, all the way around the back will be the porta potties.
Correct, to your left.
So that
Concession
first
stand, porta potties,
area
one way or another,
will
yes.
be temporary concessions. I know, like, several of the booster clubs, like, the cheerleaders, the band,
Right.
set up tents. So is that area gonna be allotted for them? Like, have we, not to get off the subject to this, but to kind of see where where we can fit this in there, like, has that
I'm gonna
been?
go up with Gina from food service either tomorrow or Monday, because I'm kind of stuck in, the township's forcing us to put the porta potties in a certain area.
Okay,
Unfortunately, that's close to the main gate.
okay.
So do we want 1,000 people walking by 22 porta potties to get to the concession tent? Or I could probably push them down a little bit and put the tent first, but now I have 1,000 people stuck at the main gate. So I haven't really figured where to go. But it's all going right around there.
Okay,
If anybody else is going to be up there, and I talked to, I think, a cheerleading parent the other night, I said she needs to get approved by Ms. DeBona.
okay.
I'm not just gonna provide electricity for everybody who wants to sell popcorn or whatever, it's not my fault.
Yeah, yeah.
So if Ms. DeBona, Gina, approves that, then, yeah, again, I can only stretch electric so far. We could probably put 1 or 2 tents on the far side, because they have some electric off that first pole.
Mhm.
But we couldn't really handle more than 2 more tents, say, up there, if that answers your question.
Does everybody walk by that pole if you're gonna sit on the home side?
Yeah.
Then that might be a better place for something like this.
So this might be better off there, just because you have that initial traffic flow coming in,
Yeah.
the gate, everybody trying to get in there. So you might be better off on the other
On
side,
the other
just
side. Right. Now,
where people are gonna walk by.
the visitors are gonna go right away
Yeah.
and sit down, but they're not going
They're
to
not gonna wanna
be
put a
pertaining
camera
to
in
this anyway, right,
necessarily.
as much. Or if you had 2 tents, as soon as you go up there on the right, you could put a small tent or a small table, and then 1 or 2 people to hand out to the visitors, if you want to. They'll have a little bit of room there.
I'm just
And
wondering
then
if
the
it should
second
be
one way in
more,
back, like-
better on the other side, because
Yeah.
people get in, not sure where they're going, so they might just miss what's happening there. Right at the entrance.
Here's another thought, if it's rainy, we talked about with Mr. Babb, just taking them right across the track. We're not gonna walk around the grass area. So if there's no food and drink involved, you could set up that tent or tables towards that side, but in the D area, which is part of the track, right? So you could be very visible there to everybody of what's going on, have some signage. So that's an option.
Yeah, so
too.
obviously where you're gonna traffic flow through there.
You'll have to figure out some signs that they can put on tents as part of your budget future. They don't cost that much. That's something you use that quite a bit.
What's that area, that area's lit up, these are obviously lit up there, but lights, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and there's not really time between when the board is going to approve the
And then
prices,
go.
and then, right, that's Monday, and then the game's on Friday, so,
Brochure.
right, but, yeah.
Work on that. We have tentative price, if you change it, we can change, we can have a tentative draft. Joe said he couldn't have one for tonight, for our next meeting, he can, we'll put in as much of this stuff here, so you can see this is what it might look like, if the board approves these, target donations and sponsorships. But that's something that can be handled out.
Yeah, and then we still have to talk, just trying to get more people
Right.
involved in helping.
It can't just be the school.
Not to change subject, but is that the night that we might have Dr. Kish here and? Right, VIPs,
Well,
so is there another,
Like I haven't heard anything back, but like Deep Run, the Yellow Jackets, Green Jackets, I'm still waiting to hear from him, but, is that when we want to invite all those groups?
Probably, I mean,
night, I would think so.
Dave talked about the excitement